Guten Tag. Now I want you to take a look at this headline that appeared on mainstream media during COVID. Now it says Trump suggests injecting disinfectants to cure coronavirus. Now mainstream media, these people are very devious and cunning. They know their audience. They know that the majority of their audience are gullible. But I want you to look very carefully at the video of what he said. And then you would realize that what he was offering was a strategic approach to dealing with the problem of the coronavirus. But you see, in some respects, I believe that their audience, I think they have been programmed so much, okay? They have been programmed to believe in what is spewed to them, and they have been programmed to believe in falsehoods and to reject truth. Now, first, let's take a look at the video of actually what Trump said.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that?
Now, let us pause there for a second. And you heard what he said. He said, you see how disinfectants knocks it out in 1 minute. And he goes on to say, can we do something like that? Can we do something like that? So he's talking about a strategic approach. There is no way, he said, that you should ingest household disinfectants. He's talking about a strategic approach. He says, look how disinfectants knocks it out in a minute. He's talking about disinfectants on surfaces. So he says, can we do something like that? Now he's talking about the body. Can we do something, use an ingestible, okay, quote unquote disinfectant, okay, that is safe for the body to kill the coronavirus inside of the body? And in some respects, when you take an antibiotic, that is exactly what you're doing. In some respects, you're disinfecting the body of the microbes for which that particular antibiotic treats. Now, you may find the concept of disinfectant in the body strange, but you fail to realize that you already ingest through foods disinfectants every day. There are foods that have a disinfecting property in the body and kill microbes within the body. But let's go on to hear what he says, and then I will explain some things to you that will blow your mind.
By injection inside or almost a cleaning, because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
Again, look at what he says. He says, so you can give the body a cleaning. Obviously, again, he's talking about a strategic approach. Something that is safe, that has disinfecting properties, and is able to rid the body of the particular microbes. And he goes and he says, you'll have to get the doctors involved. So obviously, here is a man who's actually not a doctor, not a disease infectious expert, but what he's doing, he's saying to the disease infectious experts, look, here is a possible strategic approach to dealing with this virus. Instead of waiting to develop a vaccine, here is a therapeutic, strategic approach to dealing with this virus. And again, in many different disciplines, a layman in that discipline can offer a strategic approach. And then it's up to the technical people to take that strategic concept and translate it into a real legitimate response to the problem. This is not strange. But instead, what did the sensational media do? They says, oh, Trump is encouraging people to drink household disinfectants. And they made a whole shenanigan and misrepresented entirely what the gentleman was saying. It's the same thing locally you people did with the whole green donkey thing. So there are devious, vicious people in media and just out and about, mischievous. They're trying to use people's statement for political clout, for political mileage. These people are there. They're sitting around waiting for you to make a mistake politically or say something that sounds off so they can capitalize on it. These people, especially these people in the media, they do not care about the masses. What they care about is staying in business and their bottom line. A lot of the times, their stories are mainly sensational. It is geared to sell newspapers, and it's geared to hold the audiences and to sell commercials. That's what it's about. So when you see RFK said to people like Dana Bash that, look, you're a parrot, that is actually facts. These people get together early in the morning or whenever they have their meetings before they go on air, and the director says, look, I want you to push this story, okay? And this story is going to get a lot of traction. Then we can run a lot of ads. This is how they make their money. So there's an incentive to do that. As RFK said, the duty of the media should be to hold government accountable, to represent the interests of the masses. But if you looked at Anderson Cooper, he was the hit guy. He was the go-to guy. And he was very calm and cool about what he was doing. He was perfect for the job. Okay? I believe it was a political hit job. The whole aim of what the media was doing was to sabotage Trump. Now let's get into these food disinfectants. These are things that I wanted to talk about during COVID, but they were immediately shut down. Of course, I shared the information with many friends. I had a friend that came down with the COVID, and I said to him, I said, be careful. If you go into that hospital, and especially at the time where they were using these ventilators, I said, if you go in there, they're going to kill you. Because just from a structural perspective, you cannot take a compromised lung and put it on a ventilator, because you're going to kill the lung, okay? You first have to give that lung a little bit of relief so it strengthens itself, and then additionally, you can use a ventilator. But if you have an entirely compromised lung, okay, by putting it on a ventilator that pushes and pulls air violently out of it, guess what? You're going to kill that lung. But what were they doing in the initial stages of the coronavirus? They were saying, put them on ventilators. And people who worked in the hospital at that time will tell you that they were literally killing people on ventilators. So you remember at one time, I think it was Cuomo at that time, and he was saying to Trump, we need 30,000 ventilators. Luckily, they didn't get 30,000 ventilators, because that would have been 30,000 dead New Yorkers. And funny enough, after they realized that the ventilators were killing people quicker than anything else, they stopped using the ventilators. And many of the ventilators that Trump sent initially, when Cuomo was demanding them, was left in a warehouse in New Jersey. Now again, as I said, let's get back to ingestible disinfectants, so to speak. Now I want you to take a look at this. Take a look at Listerine, a bottle of Listerine, okay? I want you to take, if you have a bottle of Listerine, I want you to go in your cabinet, your kitchen cabinet or your bathroom cabinet. I want you to go in your bathroom cabinet and take a look of the list of the active ingredients. I am going to put it up here for you to also take a look. Take a look at this. So hopefully you took a look at the active ingredients and you got a chance to probably pause the video and take a look at it. Now you will realize that the active ingredients, and most of them are less than 0.5%. Okay? Keep that in mind. So they're negligible in terms of the amount in the bottle of Listerine. Now you'll see you have eucalyptol, okay, from eucalyptus. Everybody knows eucalyptus oil. You'll see you have menthol. You'll see you have something called methyl salicylate, okay? And that is also oil of wintergreen, another naturally occurring plant. So you had menthol, eucalyptol, and oil of wintergreen, 3 naturally occurring plants, okay? And at the bottom, you have thymol. Do you know what thymol is? Thymol is the active ingredient, so to speak, in thyme leaves. Surprise, surprise. So there you have in a bottle of Listerine 4 naturally occurring herbs at doses less than 0.5% of the total bottle of Listerine. But what does Listerine do? Listerine kills 99.9% of the germs in your mouth. Okay? So at those very negligible doses, that Listerine can kill 99.9% of the microbes in your mouth. Okay? So let me give you a little background about Listerine. Okay? And you'll get a better concept and understanding about these antiseptics. Okay? Because that's what they're really called in the field of medicine. Okay? It's a sort of disinfectant properties, but they're more so called antiseptics in the field of medicine. So the name Listerine came from a guy called Joseph Lister. This gentleman realized in World War I that he could have used thyme leaves and the derivative of thyme leaves, thymol, to treat soldiers' wounds as a very, very effective antiseptic. So Joseph Lister discovered that. And thymol from thyme leaves was used as one of the first antiseptics to treat the wounds of soldiers in World War I. Okay? So Joseph Lister discovered that naturally occurring antiseptic. And that is why you see the bottle of mouthwash is called Listerine from Mr. Joseph Lister. So there you have it. If you had a little experience in organic chemistry, probably some college experience, you would realize that many of the painkillers, okay, are pretty much derivatives of naturally occurring painkillers, herbs that have pain-killing properties. As I have just said, the same salicylic acid, which is basically aspirin, you have methyl salicylate, which occurs naturally from oil of wintergreen, naturally growing plant. And a lot of these painkillers were developed by scientists. What they did is that they look at stuff like opium, which is naturally occurring. And in order to try to decrease the addictive properties, they basically went into the lab and mimic the structure, the organic structure of a lot of these natural occurring compounds and came up with all these painkillers made in the lab. So there you have it. You have to understand that you eat thyme leaves all the time. Okay? It's part of your seasoning. And you don't realize that you're ingesting naturally occurring, healthy for the body, antiseptics that have disinfectant properties in your body. So now you may realize that the strategic approach that Trump suggested to the doctors and the quote-unquote infectious disease experts, Trump's ideas were actually spot on in terms of a strategic approach. If only these infectious disease experts would have listened to his strategic approach, took it seriously, many people could have been saved. Now, as I was telling you a personal story about one of my friends that came down with the COVID. So, what did I do? Among other things, I went to the grocery store, got thyme leaves, and I have a formula, okay, with several naturally occurring plants. And I put it in a bag, and I dropped it in front of the gentleman's building, waited in the car, and I told him to come downstairs to get it, boil it, and drink it 3 times a day. The gentleman can testify that he overcame the COVID within 2 days. Okay? Now, none of this is medical advice, but I'm saying to you, many of the people that I know, family and very close associates, drank that formula that I gave to them during COVID, and they did not come down with COVID. I have a few people who are close to me who would have been exposed to many infected people during COVID. They worked with them, okay? And luckily, they themselves did not come down with COVID because they boosted themselves with that particular cocktail of naturally occurring herbs. Now, I tried to tell a lot of people about it during COVID, but some of these people, okay, they were so enthralled with all that was taking place and all the advice from the expert and the people in the media that they didn't want to believe what I was telling them. And to this day, and these people were so bamboozled and duped, okay, that some of these people, I am very happy, I am no longer friends with them. I've decided, because of the level of ignorance displayed during COVID, political ignorance and whole ignorance about what was going on in the media, these are not people that I want to be friends with. And these are not people I want to interact with. I believe these are the sort of people that will infect me with their level of misunderstanding. Okay? So I made a conscious effort not to have any interaction with them. Interestingly enough, many of these people, when they see me, they always put their head down. I wonder why. But as I said, we were on the right side of history. So the bottom line is that in the media, we have some very devious, okay, desperate and vicious people. I'm sure you guys may be very familiar with it on a local level in the Caribbean. But again, as I have said, you continue to allow yourselves to be taken. You make the job of deceiving you so easy. So it's not like these people are markedly brilliant. It's just that some of you are so goddamn easy to be deceived. It is like child's play. It is like taking candy from a kid. You allow yourselves to be so easily bamboozled. On that note, guten Abend.